Live from Dirt Night on RaceSpotTV, welcome back to the Racecraft Off-Road powered by Next Level Racing campaign. Just 2 rounds are left to go in the championship showdowns, and the spec class, well, it's all left on the shoulders to see if our championship leader can walk away with the championship one hand on it heading into next week's showdown. Hi folks, Arjuna Kankipati alongside of Joey Tebben, ready for the racing action. Josh Lee unfortunately over the pond in London. He's watching on from the sidelines and getting ready to be back here from the big house for the action next time out. But Joey, it's great to have you back in the commentary booth, especially since you joined us for the season opener, also here at the Bark River International Raceway.
Call me the Bark River Ringer. They're getting me in here just to bark about Bark River, but I can't complain about that at all. It's a beautiful place to go racing, fantastically designed for this very specific type of off-road racing. We had a great start to the season just a couple of weeks ago, or actually over a month ago now, where Crystal King had a great performance, if I'm remembering correctly, and quite a few others had good starts to their season, but we're deep into the season now. It's no longer race one.
Welcome back to RaceSpotTV. Apologies for the technical issues, but glad we can jump back in as quickly as we can and get ready to go for the racing at hand. Joey was just talking about being the Bark River Ringer. Let's talk to you quickly, though, about what the format is for the racing in store. We've got 2 motos ahead of us, qualifying just about to come to a close. 8 minutes for the drivers to get to the track all to themselves and figure it out. And they're racing in the Pro 2 truck, 700 horsepower, spec Class C's fixed setup, the Open Championships, of course, unrestricted setup, and experienced racers must therefore compete in the Open Championship. Let's talk about spec points because, well, it's almost a full race victory that Cody Retzlaff has over the rest of the field and defending champion Crystal King. Well, Joey will be hoping that today Cody has a bit of an issue and she can make her way a little bit closer in the running order heading off to the big house in a week's time.
Exactly. We do not want a championship solved before the championship finale. We want it to go down to the final round. So, Cody Retzlaff, you can still win the championship. That's all fine. But we do want it to at least be mathematically possible for there to be a competition going into the final week. But it's not just all about the top of the point standings. Crystal King, Brent Smith, Cameron Mageshik, Nick Nowak, all of them within a reasonable amount of points of each other. Might not get you those championship trophies you so desire, but finishing 3rd in the championship's better than finishing 4th, so that'll still be hotly contested over the next 2 weeks.
Absolutely. Quick look as well at the track analysis. You can see 12 turns here at the Bark River International Raceway. It's 1.5 miles in length and flowing in nature through the rolling hills of Michigan. Always excited to see how the drivers fare when they head out here. And of course, think back to Championship Series history where we saw the closest ever finish right down to the wire. We know how aggressive you can be, but in these Pro 2 trucks, the berms on the final couple of corners can very much prove treacherous. Let's head trackside then with qualifying in the books. Let's take you down through how they'll line up for the racing that lies ahead. And well, Cody Retzlaff will line up at the front, but Crystal King with the pole position, inverted top 3, drops back to 3rd, does grab the points as well for being quick when it really counted. Alex Lajeunesse will be alongside on the front row with King and Brent Smith on row 2, Tom Grady, Dominic Burhoot, and then back in 7th spot to find James Mensch and Trevor Teal alongside. Cameron McGidgick and then Paisley Wygant round out the top 10 with Nick Nowak and Austin Schreiber 11th and 12th positions. 13th for Wes Graham, 14th for Joey Herbie, and then Matt Bennett, Cody Harrelson, Miles Morrison, Solomon Borschinger rounding out the top 18. It's Corey Crowther, Kenny Hoffman, Quentin Johnson, Cole Fisher, Austin McLaughlin, and then Ian Fisher, your top 24, all ready to rumble here with 10 laps of racing again on the docket. Drivers just getting their final marching orders to head down track side, and already championship protagonists at the front, the first of the motos in store. Remember, Cody Retzlaff wanting to try and make sure he heads into the season finale, Joey, as comfortable as possible.
Yeah, we don't want to see that from the booth. We don't want to see that as fans. We want to see it come down to the final round, but Cody Retzlaff says, I'm behind the wheel of the truck. I control my destiny. I don't care what any of you guys think. I'm going to be fighting this 100%. And if I can score yet another win and pull even more points than the rest of the field, I am going to do so. And I don't think I would be surprised to see that be any different tonight. He has been very, very fast this season. He's been almost untouchable. But we'll see. Anything can happen. It's Bark River, especially in turn 1. There's a wide open opportunity. If you can send it to the inside and becomes the outside to turn 2, always the possibility to take the lead away on lap 1.
As that Nitro Circus sim racing machine of Trevor Teal lining up back in 8th. Cody Retzlaff in the Team Rogue entry. That purple machine going to be watching behind for the Shenandoah Shine number 1 of Crystal King. You can see the rest of the drivers all filtered in behind, 24 trucks strong and ready to do battle. Of course, we saw a bit of chaos in the opening round of the season, and so I think we are expecting similar sorts of intensity here. 10 laps will invert the top 3 again when we get ready to go for the second of the motos of the night. Let's see if we can try and dial up a couple, as ever, of our driver webcams with the pace truck pulling off and away. There's Cameron McGijic, who sits up in his sim rig. Trevor Teal there, as well as the likes of Wes Graham, who in VR, as ever, showing us a slightly different perspective of the racing that some of these drivers enjoy. But pace truck off and away, ready to go racing for the first of the motos here tonight. A week away, but the same level of intensity expected from these drivers as we punch the throttle, go racing here in the rolling hills of Michigan. Retzlaff with a great jump. King instantly challenges La Jeunesse and gets forward up to second spot. They'll dive down in towards turn 2. A long, sweeping left-hander. Tom Grady on the inside of a bit of the action as well. A tidy start through 24 trucks.
That's exactly what Cody Retzlaff needed to do. He got it clean off the line, made sure he wasn't side by side with King or La Jeunesse through turns 1 and 2. Now he's got nobody around him, can look forward, can look backwards, totally clean. If you're in the middle of the field, though, you are not quite so lucky. We're already seeing the 3 wide, and we're already seeing a little bit of the chaos we saw in race 1 of the season. A little bit less now that some of these guys have more experience, but you just saw a roll in the final millisecond before that cut.
I think that was Wes the Mess, but he may not have got the worst of it. I see Joey Herbie, Kenny Hoffman, Quentin Johnson slide down to the tail end of the field already, though. 1 second the margin between Retzlaff and King as they swoop their way towards the final corners of the lap. A couple of different lines, but wider there initially from Crystal King, which might compromise her as the gap stretches out on the run back to the line. Retzlaff will lead, though, and every position worth 2 points. And so as it sits right now, again, Retzlaff in the driver's seat when it comes to the championship.
We will still have to think about race number 2, so it's not all of the points are not scored in race 1. So you're in the top 3. It's a good position to be in. Alex La Jeunesse, even if he does finish 3rd in race 1 with track position, could still finish in 1st in race 2, starting 1st. But definitely wants to make sure he doesn't let Retzlaff get too far away. Crystal King's thinking the same thing, and maybe a second gap on lap 1. But that, with one single mistake, can come down very quickly. As we learn, in the middle of the field, one little bobble can end with a total disaster.
And well, I do want to also quickly take a check to what happened to Wes the Mess, who was part of this. And so he lands sideways, and okay, so he doesn't roll the truck. It all happens behind him, but you can just tell how easy it is to get sucked up into some of this chaos. As we rejoin the live pictures, left side of the screen, you can see who's taken advantage of this start. Nick Nowak's +5, Cody Harrelson's +6, of course Dominic Verhoot -7, Joey Herbie -6, the big losers on the start.
Christmas tree lit up with what basically shows you that if you can avoid drama on lap 1, if you can avoid those big messes, you're going to be in pretty good shape in a race like this. As we ride on board with Mr. Trevor Teal, just up a couple of spots, but he's in a little bit of calm, shockingly. One of the only places of calm on the track, about 2 seconds behind Nick Nowak, about half a second ahead of Brent Smith. He's trying to breathe calmly, but that was not a great run up over the top of the hill. You can see Brent Smith sending it into the grass. He's trying to take P7 away. He's got Pacey Wygant with about 75% of a truck attacking, though, behind.
And fiberglass being shed means that for fans, you can always find plenty of attractions. At least here in the virtual world, you don't have to pay for the damage bill to repair. Oh, oof. Well, repair a couple of trucks, because up and over goes the 418 of Dominic Verhoot. Cody Harrelson still pointed in the wrong direction, and Wes the Mess piles in, and we're still somehow spinning.
He got pointed straight eventually, so he should be very thankful to the rest of the field, who essentially said, I don't care, get out of my way, I'm full throttling through this. That was incredible. I didn't even see how that really begun. It begun with a spin from Matt Bennett, I believe. Somehow Dominic Berhout does a double, triple axle somersault, and then everybody else is on the scene just like, go, move, get out of the way.
I'm just saying, X Games, that gets a 10 out of 10 rating. It's not, doesn't get much more perfect than that in terms of the landing.
Biles,
right?
Eat your heart out.
Yeah, no, I think we need a new form of sport, motorsport, car acrobatics, however we want to call it. Anyway, we are on to the 4th of 10 laps. Let's not forget, there's still a race emerging as much as your leader is broken away. There's no ifs or buts about it. Cody Retzlaff, 2.2 seconds clear. Crystal King, Alex Lachinesse, Tom Grady, and Cameron McGidgick. Those behind still tucked in relatively close as they run their way through.
Riding on board with Cameron McGidgick. Remember what I said about those championship points. Him and Brent Smith very, very close together in the championship, so just making that move on Tom Grady, as he just did, that's 2 extra points in the bank, and those could potentially be the 2 points that separate 3rd and 4th or even 5th in the championship at the end of it all. So I hope his deer antlers in the background and the fish that's seemingly attached to a baguette, I hope they're all very, very happy right now because they're quite a few spots ahead of Brent Smith.
Not a bad day at the office, all things considered. McGidgick didn't qualify that well. It was a better qualifying effort from Brent Smith, who's dropped back in the running order. As Josh Edmondson said, for going bad, that went well in relation to what we just saw with all the chaos. Bit of a slip there from Nick Nowak in the AMX entry, putting the pressure on to the Legion Speed Sport 535 of Tom Grady, who relatively inexperienced in his own claim in these Pro 2 trucks. We've seen him, of course, plenty in the Pro 4s. Back up to King, who's put some more distance between herself and La Jeunesse, trying to close back up towards the race leader of Cody Retzlaff. Let's go back in the pack, though, and check in with some of the fighting, because you can see how close some of these drivers are. This is all in the fight for 14th spot.
Salomon Bershinger, longest name in the field, has quite the train behind him, has quite the interestingly damaged truck ahead of him as well. Wes the Mess, still very much alive, but still not in the healthiest truck you've ever seen in your life. So he's kind of holding back this train. Everybody looking to break it up a little bit, but it's not quite going well for anybody. Wes doing a great job of being defensive, keeping this entire train behind him. Eventually, I think if he gets past, he's going to get cycled to the back, but Salomon Bershinger's got to be first on the scene, and he's got to make that move first.
And given how much we've already seen with Chaos, let's not forget Race Control. We'll have plenty to look at already. I have these slight inclination they'll have a bit more to look at the very least in Moto 2, if not in the remaining 5 laps that we've still got left here to go. As well, that's Austin Scheiber not pointed in the right direction as he tries to do an infinite point turn and avoid losing any more time. Meanwhile, Pacey Wygant, Trevor Teal, they're fighting and knocking 10 bells out of one another and rubbing in midair. It all goes wrong for Teal, who gets shoved out wide.
Yeah, Pacey has been nursing damage since essentially lap 1. I don't really remember where that damage came from, but it doesn't seem to be affecting him too much. First, here's what happened to Scheiber. You really don't want to be where we saw him, that close to that camera through the final couple of corners. Just clips the wall in that final 90-degree section and turns 10 and 11, and loops him around. Has to wait for the whole field to come by. Somebody says, hello, I'm going to fit through on the other side of the track, and eventually he gets going, but only after losing a ton of time, and I believe he is all the way at the back of the pack now.
I think at the very back of those who have already not been struggling today, at least to put it mildly. Anyway, we have had less chaos, I feel like, than we did in the season opener. Maybe we just have got to wait for it in the second of the motos. And again, invert the top 3 as it sits right now. Alex La Jeunesse would be starting at the very front. Crystal King would be alongside. And this man, Cody Retzlaff, would be tucked up in 3rd, looking to try and charge his way on forward. 2.2 seconds, his margin back to the defending champion, Crystal King.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think the relative calmness is just a demonstration of the plasticity of the human brain. We started at Bark River. We had a bunch of new drivers, a bunch of people with maybe a little bit less experience making their way into Racecraft Pro 2 in the spec class. they were getting the first race jitters out of the way. Now they've had 4 races in succession. Cody Retzlaff almost gets a bumper landed on him from the other side of the track, for that matter, distracting me. But they've all had 4 races in succession now. They've got tons more experience, and now that they return to Bark River, a familiar circuit for them all, I think everybody's just that little bit more comfortable, and everybody's that little bit more ready to clean up the dirty racing a little bit.
And I guess at this point in the season, you know who you should and you should not fight with, right? Because you know what championship battles you're in and who has proven strong over the course of the season. And, well, in the case of Cody Retzlaff, it helps when you don't have to really fight with too much around you when you're able to break away to the degree that you have so far. Tom Grady, Nick Nowak, and Brent Smith still relatively close to one another as they sequence their way through turn 2, this long left-hander before you slink your way in towards the S's. Jump on board with the AMX 145, and this is where we saw some issues going 3 and 4 wide over the jump. No such issues when you're single file and on the hunt.
Good to ride on board with a truck at Bark River. You saw the sheer amount of air you get up over the hill there at the start of the lap. It's insane when you see it from outside the truck, but it's even more insane when you're riding on board and it essentially looks like a plane crash. You're wondering, how on earth are you planning on landing this? How on earth are you planning on getting those 4 wheels pointed in a straight line? It never ceases to be terrifying, but Nick Nowak's got this under control. He's got a nose to the inside, or Brent Smith rather has a nose to the inside of Nick Nowak, but got to have more than a nose inside. You got to be fully alongside if you want to try and make an overtake at a place like this where it's all high-speed corners. You need to be fully alongside.
And the great thing is, like we were saying earlier, fight's not just up towards the front, but fight slightly further back. On the inset shot on your screen, you can see West the Mess, Solomon Bershinger, Dominic Berhout, that fight now for 13th spot, but checked in on that fight a couple of laps ago. They crossed the line, 2 to go. Still very much embroiled with one another. Let's see what Brent Smith's going to be able to do. Of course, announcer for the Championship Off-Road Series in the real world. We've seen plenty of strong performances from him over the course of this season as well. Lands the truck with authority, slides it to the inside of Nick Nowak, who's got the run off the corner, but Smith closes and closes once again.
That is the heaviest braking zone on the track in turn 6. He sends it to the inside of turn 7, the longest corner on the track. A little bit of contact, but that is a totally acceptable amount of contact, I would say, to make that move. He was getting desperate. It's the second to last lap, and he's made it happen, but he's got to be careful not to lose that ground. Nowak is going to be behind, and he's going to be very eager to repay the favor if he can get close and get in a position to do the same thing on the final lap.
But with the white flag in hand, it is Cody Retzlaff that still leads by around 2.4 seconds as the rest of the drivers scramble across the line. Can Tom Grady hold on this final lap of the race? Only time will tell, but there is the Team Rogue number 21. Back out through the S's towards the jump once more. What has been a dominant and commanding performance to open up the first race of the night. And of course, the one thing to remember going into the championship showdown is 10 wide. The land rush start at Crandon is always the great equalizer, isn't it, Joey? So, being able to put a bit of a margin between you and the chasing pack going into the finale, always going to be a confidence booster for the points leader.
Cody would love nothing more than to be totally comfortable and think about doing absolutely anything in that 10 wide start. Doesn't need to worry about being in first, doesn't need to worry about being in 10th, would just need to worry about being alive and finishing the race. I think that's exactly what he wants, but the level of comfort he's shown today, he's made this look easy. Second trip to Bark River, and he's figured this place out, I think.
It's another victory for Cody Retzlaff, and is it the one that sees him on the cusp of the championship here on the rolling hills of Michigan? He wins the first moto of the night at the Bark River International Raceway and Racecraft Off-Road, powered by Next Level Racing and its Spec Championship. Rest of the drivers will run to the line. Grady just fends off the advances from Smith, and we're talking 3 or so tenths of a second. Close finishes can be expected here. Maybe not as much as we would have hoped for, but Joey, a relatively clean start to the night. Yes, some fiberglass has gone flying. We've still got one more race, 10 more laps to go in this Spec Championship.
Somewhat clean, somewhat calm. We'll get people out there with their dirt brooms and their dirt vacuum cleaners. We'll suck all the fiberglass out of the track, and we'll go racing yet again in a matter of seconds. So enjoy the calm, enjoy the break, everybody. and get ready for a lot more of that, because you've got a big task now of seeing that guy Cody Retzlaff, who just won Moto 1 with a 3-second lead, and somehow trying to figure out how to keep him behind.
And the only thing that maybe I'm thinking about is, well, we do, of course, have the inverted top 3. So Alex Lachenesse in a great position to maybe try and grab the victory. Did not fall that far behind Crystal King, all things considered, at the end of the day. Just wait for the final driver to cross the line for us to be able to grab a look at the race results and for us to be able to talk about the race as it's just unfolded. So Retzlaff 3.1 seconds clear of King at the line, with Alex Lachenesse third. Cameron McGidgick, Tom Grady, Brent Smith, Nick Nowak, Pacey Wygant, and then Matt Bennett, Trevor Teal make up the rest of the top 10. And about 23 seconds split those top 10 drivers. Relatively smaller margins between the next 5. James Mensch, Miles Morse, Wes Graham, Solon Bershinger, and Dominic Berhout, all relatively close in the fight, as were Joey Herbie and Kenny Hoffman. Austin Scheiber was pointed in the wrong direction at one point, but spins it back around to finish 18th in front of Austin McLaughlin and Cole Fisher, the top 20. Corey Crowther and Ian Fisher are scored on the lead lap. Unfortunately for Cody Harrelson and for Quinton Johnson, it is one lap down for them in these race results. I've still got one more moto to come in this Racecraft Off-Road powered by Next Level Racing Spec Championship. Don't go anywhere on RaceSpotTV. The action's still plenty to come here in the world of Racecraft Off-Road. Back live on RaceSpotTV for Dirt Night on RaceSpot, here with Racecraft Off-Road powered by Next Level Racing. Spec Championship up on deck first, and with the first moto in the books already, championship leader Cody Retzlaff has taken one more step forward on his quest to grab the championship. What more do we still have left in store? Well, we'll have to stay tuned and find out. Arjuna Kankipati alongside of Joey Tebben. And Joey, first moto relatively quiet, all things considered. Yes, we had the malaise on the opening lap, but here in the rolling hills of Michigan, 1.5 miles, Bark River always proves a treat for the racing action.
And it's not going to be a full field invert, it's just going to be the top 3 inverting, so it'll be the race results of the previous race, but Lachenesse, King, and Retzlaff will start in that order at the head of the field, so there's going to be at least a little bit of drama. Can Cody Retzlaff get back to the lead, or can he be held back by 2 of the other fastest drivers in this series? That's going to be the main thing to watch in race 2, so I'm very excited. I think it's going to be even more action-packed than race 1 was just there.
Well, that's the hope, at least. Fingers crossed. It's the same 10 laps of racing action, same points as well on the line for these drivers. We'll take a quick look at the Racecraft race analysis. Just a reminder, 50 points for the race victory, 2 points per position down after that. And in the Spec Championship, it is a fixed setup as well. The drivers have had their marching instructions to head down track side. Let's take you down to the starting grid to see how they'll line up. And as mentioned, Alex Lachenesse with the inverted top 3 will grab the pole position, be alongside Crystal King on the run up towards Barney the Flagman. Cody Retzlaff and Cameron McGidgick will share row 2, with Tom Grady and Brent Smith relatively close at the end of the first race, having to lock horns alongside each other at the start of race number 2. Nick Nowak, Pacey Wygent, Matt Bennett and Trevor Teal. The rest of the top 10 were James Mensch, Miles Morris 11th and 12th positions, 13th for West MS, hopefully not unlucky 13th as well. Solomon Bershinger is alongside him, Dominic Berhout, Joey Herbie, Kenny Hoffman and Austin Schreiber the front 9 rows, and row 10 sees Austin McLaughlin and Cole Fisher. It will be Corey Crowther, Ian Fisher, Cody Harrelson and then Quinton Johnson at the back of the 24 truck field. And just in the nick of time, we finish our rundown. They've just got their instructions to begin rolling away behind the iRacing pace truck. So Joey, time for you to put a prediction on the line. Who wins this second moto of the night? Can Cody Retzlaff do it from third, or will there be a surprise left for us here on our run to the championship showdown?
I would say probably Cody Retzlaff wins this race. I'd give him about a 75% chance, but you never know. I could be wrong. My internal polling could be very well off, and Crystal King and Alex Lajeunesse could pull off the defensive drive of the century here, or they could all take each other out and somebody deeper in the field could win. But I'd say 75% sure. I'm shifting my rating from lean Retzlaff to likely Retzlaff.
I see. Okay, I'll go. Am I going to go contrarian just for the sake of it?
Yes.
You know, I think it's all going to come down to this start. Crystal King's in a really interesting position on the outside of the front row. She obviously got the jump on Lajeunesse. If she's able to hold on relatively well, maybe she could bring a surprise, but otherwise I think Cody Retzlaff could end up being untouchable. And if it is another victory for Retzlaff, it would be effectively one hand on the championship going over to the big house. Is that the situation we'll be left in? 10 laps ahead of us to find out. Lajeunesse, King on the front row, and now just waiting for the drop of the green flag. Here in the rolling hills of Michigan, 24 trucks strong. Let's get the action underway once again. Crystal King instantly under fire from Cody Retzlaff. Lajeunesse will lead them over the jump, and Retzlaff instantly, commandingly into second. Big slide behind by Trevor Teal in the Nitro Circus machine. Bit wide there for Brent Smith as he tried to take the fight to Tom Grady, but as they cycle their way through the long left-hander, sequencing their way on through, it's a tidy start once again for 24 trucks.
And Crystal got very out of shape coming through turn 2. Looked like it was a near flip for the red and yellow truck, but she did get it pointed back in a straight line. Everything's good there. Lajeunesse now has the ultimate task of holding Cody Retzlaff back for 10 whole laps. I wish him good luck. I wish these guys good luck in the middle of the field. Teal, Wygant, Nowak. I think James Mensch was involved in there as well. We made it about half a lap, and we've already got fiberglass flying off here in the middle of the field.
Turns out sometimes the producer does know exactly where to put the camera and catches all of the intensity. Now this has built up a breakaway, 1.2 odd seconds to those in front as to the end of the lap they run. It's going to be Nick Nowak that leads the second group. Alex Lajeunesse very sideways and committed on the sequence and dance back to the line. But Cody Retzlaff is hot on his heels and ready to put the pressure on as the opening lap comes to a close. 9 laps to rumble. And here's the championship leader right on the tail of the race leader.
Riding on board with Cody, knee deep in the passenger seat, getting to the inside. Not going to happen there, though, but he's there. He's let Lajeunesse know already on lap 2 that he is very capable of making this move. He is the fastest truck on this track, so all Alex can do right now is maybe nothing, because there goes Cody to the inside, and before they even land, he's already made the move. Lajeunesse gets all sorts of out of shape under braking at the bottom of the hill. And wow, we made it a lap and a half before Cody was able to put the intimidation into Lajeunesse and force him into a mistake that got him out of the way.
And well, cattywampus on landing for Lajeunesse, and McGijic takes advantage to be able to fire it through as well. So he's gone from the lead to 4th. Can Retzlaff break away? Well, only gonna have to find out. Remember, the track's evolving and the dirt's gonna be shifted around as we make our way through the course of this race. And in the Spec Championship, Joey, they don't have the ability to dial in the setup of the car. As Lajeunesse over the jumps, over the whoop section, a little bit out of sorts, loses a bit more time, bit more momentum.
Yeah, if you're not feeling comfortable with the truck, the series, all it tells you is to cope and seethe and figure it out, because that's what you got to do. Everybody's got the same machinery. Everybody's got the same tools to work with. It's a pretty good thing to say which drivers are the fastest in the same type of machinery. That's why we love a spec series. But when you are fast enough in a series like this, I think they do tend to think about moving you up to the higher level series where it does become open setup. So I do wonder if Cody Retzlaff, Crystal King, maybe some of those guys next season, are they going to move up to the top level series and have to start working on their own setups again? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
See some conversation in the chat about the race starts and the jump that sometimes we see drivers able to get. I mean, one thing to keep in mind is the fact that when it comes to the initial start, the driver in second is always at a bit of a disadvantage when it comes to trying to get the timing, as when the leader's going to go when you're sitting behind, it's always easier to make that judgment, to be able to make that split-second call. And so definitely something just to keep in mind. In the second moto of the day, though, let's work our way back in the pack to some of the action. Trevor Teal trying to look to the inside of Miles Morse. This for 10th position. Tom Grady under pressure from Matt Bennett with Nick Nowak behind this. 6th, 7th, and 8th spots.
Love these midfield battles. Tom Grady, of course, the former quarterback of the Buccaneers, I think, if I'm remembering my football correctly. Matt Bennett, much cleaner than he was in the previous heat. Remember, he got turned around up over the top of the hill, kind of got turned in front of the field, got every corner of his truck knocked off. Looks far cleaner now in that number 223 in the red, white, and blue. And he's looking very, very aggressive. Not able to get to the inside of Grady that time, but that truck looks good. Over the bumps, he looks comfortable. And get him to the inside of Grady. Get him another shot like this, and he might be able to make this happen.
Out for 6, still only 6 seconds off of your leader. By no means has Cody Retzlaff broken away at this point. Let's jump back on board with Alex Lachenesse, despite looking like he was getting a little bit all out of sorts. Being able to bring himself into contention still for these podium spots as they now jump back to the line. I've just seen Tom Grady jump back to pit lane, so I'm going to come to that assumption that battle's gone wrong. The replay will tell us a lot more whenever we get a chance to take a look at it.
Somebody call the refs. What happened? Grady first in line, Matt Bennett second, the 145 in third, and unfortunately nobody else was involved but himself. Just got a little bit out of shape through the final couple of corners and ended up ramping himself over the concrete barriers into a disallowed part of the racetrack. Unfortunately, that was an instant trip back to pit lane for him. A little bit more trouble at the back of the field, slightly more straightforward, just a little spin around for Quentin Johnson, getting a little bit too much rotation in the rear end of that truck.
Oh, and he's gone even wronger for Nick Nowak. Didn't think that was possible. Oh, heavens. Bad to worse, unfortunately. And I'm not even sure exactly how you end up blowing your truck engine at that point.
I think he got impaled by the signposts.
Oh,
I think that's what happened. Gets turned up over the hill, kablamo into those yellow walls. Engine's already blown, and then totally out of control. For good measure, ends up stuck between the billboards.
Well, I guess that's one way to end the race. Half the race now in the books. Retzlaff leads by 1.7 seconds. The 3 cars very close to one another, and Brent Smith not far behind in the fight for the final 2 steps on the podium. Teal, Morse, and Burhoot relatively close as well in another group, but outside of that, this race has seen plenty more chaos, Joey.
Cameron Mageshik doing a great job, though. Did a great job in race 1. Finished in the top 5, but he has found kind of a new kind of rhythm in race number 2. He's keeping pace with Crystal King. He's keeping a gap back to Alex Lachenesse. And honestly, in some parts of this track, and some laps are different than others, he's looked a little bit faster than Crystal King. And right here, up over the top of the hill, he looks like he might be able to make the move on Crystal. Can't make it happen that time, but did get a full truck to the inside. Couldn't get the acceleration down, but give him the chance to do that again, and Cameron Mageshik could be up there in second. He's been doing a great job and clearly using some lessons he learned in race 1.
And I'm guessing as well, right, that race 1 set the tempo for a lot of these drivers in recognizing, well, how much they were going to have to fight, because not much has changed. Yes, the track surface has slicked up maybe a little bit more, the blue groove being laid down. But really, these drivers are dealing with the same circumstances as they work their way back towards turn 2, with race leading gap now up to 2.4 seconds or so at the line. As it stands right now, Cody Retzlaff ready to take double victory here and just extend his championship advantage even further. Back into that middle pack though, where there's still plenty of cars to fight. Kenny Hoffman at the tail end of the train on the back of West the Mess.
Riding on board with Kenny Hoffman. Good view from the top of this truck. But it's a pretty calm view for him. Again, the middle of the field, while in some parts of the race, it tends to get pretty chaotic. It tends to be where the fiberglass tends to fly off of these trucks. Right now, we got a pretty straightforward and clean battle for the last couple spots outside the top 10. Kenny takes a peek to the inside. It's not quite close enough to make anything happen, but one mistake from any of these guys will definitely open the door for a possible battle, and this battle is still very much possible. It's not even just possible, it is physically happening right now. Magishik has caught Crystal again. And
so, as they run through the final couple of corners, Brent Smith on the pressure of Alex Lajeunesse. Fight for second and third. Going to continue to rumble on. That was very sideways and slidey from Lajeunesse behind. And so Brent Smith gets a little bit more close to his target as well. All as Cody Retzlaff just continues to run away and build up his advantage at the front. We've got some fights brewing though, that's for sure. 3 laps still left to go. Every position worth 2 points. And remember, Cameron McGishik, Brent Smith, they're involved in their own little fight for what is third in the championship.
And surprisingly, even with the battling that we've had for second between Magishik and King, Retzlaff has not actually been able to pull away as much as he was in the previous race. So clearly these guys have found a little bit of extra speed in race 2, and even when they're running side by side, even when they're banging the doors off of each other, they're still holding pace with Cody. Maybe it's a little bit of I don't know, maybe it's a little bit of fall off on that truck somehow. Maybe it's just not behaving as well as it did in the newer track in race 1, but Cody's still dominant. He's less dominant than he was before, and one mistake or one little bit of trouble in lap traffic, as there is right there, that could have lost him a bit of critical time if he reacted a little bit slower.
Well, that could have been a little bit more chaos. And speaking of, they're going to be 3 wide on their run to the line. Dominic Berhout's been pinched again, but at least this time he's not done the full up and over smorgasbord of chaos. Off into the wall. Kenny Hoffman's done a proper grind and managed to lodge himself on that K-rail. My word, chaos as expected in this final stage of Moto 2. We've only got 2 more races for these drivers at the Big House next week. 2 laps to go. Meanwhile, Crystal King only 2 seconds off of your race leader. I think you're right, Joey. Retzlaff lost a bit of time with all of that. It could have been a lot worse.
Could have been worse. He could have lost the win entirely. There was a car perpendicular to the racing surface, but unfortunately, Crystal King's going to be thinking nothing ever happens. I can't get this. I can't get a little bit of luck going my way, but she'll still be pretty happy with second right now. And Cameron McGishik going to be happy as the only driver in the top 3 who wasn't in the same position in the previous race. He's the only shift. He's the only new podium sitter right now. So that's going to be the battle in the final lap. Can he withstand the pressure of having Alex Lajeunesse behind him? Can Alex Lajeunesse withstand the pressure of having to pressurize Cameron McGishik? It's all going to be coming together for third.
And so there's your race leader back out towards the line. And as he sees the final lap of the race get underway, we go back in time to see, well, Kenny Hoffman's race came to an end just a bit out wide and finds himself very much now one with the track surface and fixtures here at Bark River.
He almost ended up in Tom Grady land, almost ended up outside the track, but when you ride on board, you kind of realize that it's very easy to do. There's a little bit of a berm out there. It kind of makes you think like a dirt oval. You want to ride up there, you want to ride the top, but you really don't because it spits you directly out, essentially on top of a wall, and you're not getting out there unless you're very, very lucky with your throttle input and your steering input. You're just getting spat into a wall like he did, and essentially getting the bottom of your truck impaled and stuck.
Not the first time we've seen that. Unfortunately, not the last time we'll see it either. Just hoping that not going to see it anymore tonight. We've still got the 2 races in the Open Championship left to come, though. And so fingers crossed that we aren't going to see a repeat and some deja vu. Out towards the line, though, here comes, well, points leader, double winner of the night, and surely with one hand on the championship, Cody Retzlaff leaves Bark River knowing he's done basically all he can do, heading off to the Big House. It's an awesome night for Team Rogue. Cody Retzlaff wins once more. Crystal King second, Cameron McGishik third, and then Alex Lajeunesse down in 4th position. Craziness in Moto 2 on the night, and Joey, Cody Retzlaff saw none of it.
And he is already getting down to a little bit of celebration, as is deserved. Photo finish across the line there. I believe that was Pacey Wygant and Dominic Berhoot. Pacey, 2 top 10s tonight, even with losing the front end of his truck immediately in race 1 and race 2. He finished both of them off with the top 10, so big night for him, big points day.
Final drivers will come to the line. Only had 2 off the lead lap in the first moto of the night. Get the sneaking suspicion it will be a little bit more than that this time around. We'll have a chat to the drivers in a few moments' time and grab a look at those results as well before we flick the page over to the Open Championships. And so all drivers officially now have seen the checkered flag. Let's go ahead and take a look at the race results and dial you down through how Moto 2 went. Retzlaff back on top by 2.5 seconds over Crystal King, with Cameron McGijic grabbing a well-earned podium. Alex Lachinesse unfortunately just slips down to 4th, with Brent Smith, Bennett, and then Trevor Teal, Pacey Wygant, Dominic Berhoot, and Miles Morse, the rest of the top 10. It will be Wes Graham, Cody Harrelson, James Mensch, Joey Herbie, Ian Fisher, Solomon Bershinger, Cole Fisher, Tom Grady, and then Kenny Hoffman and Austin Schreiber, the rest of the top 20. And as mentioned, a couple more drivers this time around off the leading lap. Nick Nowak, Austin McLaughlin included, with Quinton Johnson and Corey Crowther, the rest of the 24 that saw the green. So looking forward to having a chat to some of these drivers. Not quite sure exactly who we've got a copy on exactly, but let's see if we can drag in Crystal King to have a quick chat with us. Crystal, a couple of second place finishes here tonight. Talk us through how the evening went from your perspective and, how you could have maybe tried to take the challenge even further to Cody Retzlaff and that Team Rogue number 21.
Yeah, coming in, I'm not the most confident at Bark River, so a pair of seconds is as good as a win for me. I know Cody's really good here, so if I can just get in and max my points, the championship's kind of far off, but I just want to be up there and get in the mix, and yeah, tonight was definitely pretty wild.
And talk to us about those starts as well, because one thing that we were kind of wondering about is, the initial jump. Is it better to be in third than it is to be in second? And you got the jump from third in race 1, got jumped on from second in race 2. Talk us through that from your perspective.
I personally think it's better to start in third, just to get on the inside off that jump. It's so easy to get pushed out wide off the little anthill, and if you get pushed into the dark stuff, you're just sliding and subject to everyone else behind you. And yeah, I had a pretty wild restart that second one. I'm glad I was able to hang on and make the most of it.
Well, congratulations on the pair of seconds, Crystal. We'll see you next week at Crandon to round out the championship.
Thanks. Just wanted to give a shout out to my team, Factory SimSport and Shenandoah Shine, and thanks for doing the broadcast, guys.
Crystal King joins us in the booth for a post-race chat, as does Cody Retzlaff. 2 race wins here today, standing by with Joey Tebben.
Indeed he is, Cody Retzlaff. Welcome back to Bark River. I'm sure you're very happy that you're back here, because 1 win in race 1, 1 win in race 2. It seems like you've got this place pretty much memorized. You've got this place figured out.
Yeah, this is by far my favorite track. I love every time we come here in the Pro 2s and the Pro 4s.
So Crandon coming up next week, championship finale. If I'm not mistaken, as long as you show up, you've got potentially an insurmountable championship lead. Don't take my math for anything on that. I'll let you do your own math. But how are you feeling coming into the championship finale, knowing that it's pretty comfortable no matter what?
Pretty good. All season I just focused on podiums and building up that lead as much as I could, so I could breathe a little bit for that Crandon finale.
You'll be having a lot of breathing room at Crandon next week, I'm sure. Even with that 10 wide land rush start, I'm sure you'll be able to take it a little bit easy. So Cody, congrats. 2 more wins in the books, and we'll see you next week.
Yep, thanks guys.
Cody Retzlaff coming home with 2 more wins, Arjuna. He's building up a resume. We got to add up all his total wins. It's got to be somewhere in the dozens.
And like he says, I think most importantly, right, they had that had that chance to go into that season finale now with a little bit less weight on their shoulders, knowing that 10 wide, well, already with a pretty comfortable championship advantage. We still have got 2 more races, though, left to go here on RaceSpotTV and Dirt Night on RaceSpot as well. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back here with the action from Racecraft Off-Road, powered by Next Level Racing and its Open Championship. Welcome back to Dirt 9 on RaceSpotTV, this time for Racecraft Off-Road, powered by Next Level Racing and its Open Championship. Drivers given the Pro 2 truck as a blank template. Figure out what you need to do to make it go fast. That includes both setup and driver. Arjuna Kankipati alongside of Joey Tebben, mainly because we can't figure out how to make these trucks go fast. Instead, we just get to shout about them. It's a much, much easier job. And Joey, what a season we've been through as well so far. Of course, a week off last week breaks up the championship. And now this final round, before we head off to the big house, we know exactly what our championship hopefuls want to do. They want to put this race behind them.
And this is especially important in an open setup series. You already have 2 full race distances of experience. You know what worked in terms of setup on June 5th, a couple of weeks ago, and you can probably take that into consideration this week. Weather might be a little bit different, track conditions might be a little bit different, but you've still got a base setup in mind that you could base your mind off of. So just like in the closed setup race earlier, where we saw maybe a little bit more calm, a little bit more drivers figuring out the track, I think this will be similarly calm and similarly well educated from these guys with tons of experience here.
And a bit closer at the top of this championship with 4 drivers split by 30 odd points or so. Never trust a commentator's math, especially one that's a little bit brain riddled with COVID right now. But anyway, close enough. Cam Peterson still very much in contention, although Keaton Swain has just leapfrogged him heading into this penultimate round of the championship. Ultimately, it's the defending champion, Josh Edmondson, with the weight on his shoulders to try and put the pressure onto Mr. Slicky. Connor Barry fights behind as well with Sean Winkler, Cody Winicky, Drake Mittag, Zachary Drapkin, all within 9 points of one another. As ever, let's talk about the track itself, because we've seen 2 races already and getting ready for 2 more 10-lap motos. Joey here with the 1.5 miles, the 12 turns. We know we're in for plenty of interesting lines to be run and hopefully some relatively clean starts.
Yeah, don't get scared if you were with us for the first races of the night. The track has not changed. There's still 12 corners. It's still in Bark River, Michigan. We're still at home. We're still centered. It's still going to be great. And we already learned where are your best passing opportunities. That long turn 7, you can get a nose to the inside. Heavy braking zone into turn 6. Those are going to be where you want to be. That left side of the track, heavy braking and long corner. That's exactly what you need to make a move in these kind of trucks.
And you can see some of the trucks already sitting and waiting for us to go racing. We'll take you down to the starting grid with, of course, qualifying already in the books, and Connor Barry fastest of them all. He gets inverted back to 3rd, and so Cam Peterson standing tall from the front row. He'll be alongside Keaton Swain in that factory sim sport sim coaches number 21, with Barry and Edmondson, the 2 and the 1 championship protagonists, sharing row 2. Cody Winicky and then Drake Mittag row 3, with 7th going the way of Anthony James. Sean Winkler will be alongside Taylor Vandenbush. Greg Johnson 9th and 10th positions, with Cody Vandenveer. Keenan Kusin 11th and 12th. 13th for Mike Budson. 14th for James Burke. Slightly smaller field, yes, should be the same level of close racing and maybe a little less chaos on those opening laps. Oh, that's asking for something though, isn't it, Joey? Because let's be honest, Moto 1 in the Spec Championship, definitely not as bad as Moto 2.
Absolutely not. So, I mean, we can't really predict anything. I'm just ready to get this race started. I'm ready to be surprised. I'm ready to maybe not be surprised. We'll see. We'll ride on board. We'll see everything from a direct perspective. I'm just ready to go Bark River racing again.
Here we go, Bark River racing, as the Bark River ringer jumps in to say, do think that Sir Josh Lee will be back with us for the season finale. Question is, how close will it be? Barry and Edmondson alongside on row 2. It's Peterson and Swain that will lead us to the start here in the first of the motos tonight. And of course, with that week off, maybe some time for drivers to really decide and reflect on exactly what they have in terms of championship fights left. Remember, Peterson may be slightly further back in the order, but mathematically not out of contention. All it takes is a bad run for Connor Barry in that Air Slayer tribute paint once again, and he's back into contention. Red number boards on the side of Barry's car, Barry's truck, denoting the points leader. Throw you under the bus, Joey. Who comes out on top here in the first race of the night?
You know what? We had pole sitters and favorites win last time. I'm gonna say the guy starting P4, Mr. Josh Edmondson, as if we can say he's not a favorite. I think he's gonna win the race from 4th. I think he's gonna make it happen.
Well, here we go. Is that a bold prediction? Let's find out. Drop of the green flag awaits Peterson and Swain on the front row. And as the Nitro Circus sim racing machine gets the rear end, stepping out already, Connor Barry putting the pressure onto Keaton Swain as we launch ourselves up through the air and through turn 1. Going to see if potentially some of the drivers behind hold on. Edmondson's been passed by Winicky. Pretty crazy start for some. Anthony James bounces in midair as he holds on to 7th spot. But sequencing through the long left-hander, only a couple of positions changing hands amongst the 14 battles that we ride out on track.
Unfortunately, Arjuna, I don't think Josh Edmondson is going to be winning this race anymore as he continues to fall down the field, loses a ton more ground in the S's. He's down to P9 at the end of lap 1, and maybe even lowers as a huge checkup coming over the hill. Lots of trucks involved. I think somebody just had a little bit of a roll. I can't even tell what's going on. There's so much going on. James Burke, I think, going to the back. Somebody's hood flying off. They're just all tripping over each other from about 8th to 14th.
I thought that was Sean Winkler, who was going very, very slowly, but could be wrong there. Not quite sure why Edmondson was so slow, but he's lost plenty of the fiberglass as well as they get ready to end the opening lap. Remember, 10-lap motos here. And so Barry puts the pressure onto Peterson. His main championship rival, though, dropping back in the order as we leap on board with the Team General Tire CBR entry. Peterson will hold on the long way around through turn 1, but by no means is this battle done and dusted. Winicky and Swain are there as well.
That was a big move from Connor Berry, but unfortunately, he just realized the reality of Bark River, where if you're in the inside of turn 1, you can get the door shut on you like Cameron Peterson did, and your choices are you can go full throttle, you can lean on your rival, and you can potentially take yourself both out and into the grass, or you can lift, you can wait a little while, and you can try and go for a move a little bit later. And Connor Berry, knowing he's pretty comfortable in the championship right now, chose to be respectful of Cameron Peterson, and the second he gets an opportunity to make that move again, he's going to be much more inclined to do so after getting the door shut on him.
Here comes the challenge from Cody Winicky, just behind. Remember, invert top 3, and so he's really looking to try and put himself in that position where he'd be able to hold the run to the green flag. And we get ready to go for the second of the races tonight. So a long way to go. Let's take a look back on board with some of the other drivers, especially those that are giving us a look behind the scenes. And so starting with Mr. Keenan Kusin, Mr. Arrow, who's on the pressure of Mike Budson and James Burke, slides up the inside and makes a pass on the run to the line.
I like the cone. I'm a big fan of the cone in the background. Kind of precariously balanced on a tire, but he's got things figured out. He's communicating. He's having a good time. I'm a big fan of the Keenan Kusin background.
And
top marks, 10 out of 10.
He's always got some interesting stuff on display. Haven't seen as much as maybe we'd want to see of him this season, but he's made the step up into this Open Championship, competing today with the barkriver.sto setup, I believe, was exactly what he had said. Sean Winkler was indeed the driver that got tangled up on the opening lap, lost a whole bunch of the front part of that truck. He still sits in 8th position. You can see working hard behind the wheel, tucked up behind the TCR entry of Drake Mittag.
And unfortunately, he's still for sale. It's been like a month since I've last seen Sean Winkler, Arjun, and he's still for sale. Nobody's bought him.
Or he just wants you to know that he's always hustling. He's always got something for sale.
That might be true. That might also be true, but I hope he can find a good home.
Or that he's got good homes for us, potentially.
That too.
I would not be opposed to maybe moving up to the Washington area, although maybe a bit colder than I would like. There's Josh Edmondson, by the way, who's about 6 seconds behind the next driver that he'd like to try and be putting the pressure onto. And so a lot of work for the Nitro Cross entry to do to try and rejoin some of the fights. Let's catch up with your race leaders, though. Jump on board with the number 21 Sim Coaches Factory Sim Sport entry of Keaton Swain. So out through the long sweeping left-hander they go. Still Connor Barry running directly behind Cam Peterson. They'll come to the end of lap 4 this time by. Drake Mittag's had a bit of an issue further back. But only one driver sits in pit lane right now. That is Cody Vanderveer.
I just really enjoyed that onboard with Keaton Swain. I loved hearing the throttle inputs, how smooth and how deliberate you have to be. It's a very different style of racing, and it is very much not a brute force style of racing. You need to have momentum, you need to have a rhythm, and you need to be very careful with those throttle inputs, because that's what happens when you're not so careful. You end up looping yourself around in front of traffic, and that's what happened at the back of the field with the 18 of Drake Mittag. And unfortunately, I think that was that Mike Budzine on the scene?
It could have been, it might have also been Greg Johnson. Couldn't quite tell. I just saw a very, very colorful livery. I'm never opposed to that, though. 4 trucks within a second, though, right now, as we get ready to close the first half of this moto. And so, by no means has Cam Peterson run away like Cody Retzlaff. Cody Winicky sits there as well as a driver searching for a first victory this season. It's Keaton Swain, Connor Barry, and Cam Peterson front of the field. Hammer and tongs once more. I have no idea how this race is going to go. I just get the sneaking suspicion they won't all look this clean by the end of the race.
This is absolutely fantastic. Even with a slightly shorter field than we had in the spec class, the level of talent and the level of parity has led to an absolutely insane 4-way battle here, where literally any of these 4 guys could end up winning. it's most likely that it's going to be one of Cam Peterson or Connor Berry, but if they come together, which they almost just did up over the top of the hill again, suddenly Keaton Swain is in the perfect position to pick things up. Cody Winicki, if he can make the move and get up to third, he'll be in the perfect position to make things happen. Now the door's open for Connor Berry. There was one bobble for Cameron Peterson. That's all he needed to take that over. He has to make sure not to let him run away now, though.
What a move. Connor Berry, Mr. Two-Time. Mr. Slicky slides his way forward to the race lead. And then what can he do? What will he be able to do to break away from the likes of Swain? Remember that Peterson relatively rusty and missing plenty of the top-level competition over the last 18 or so months before this championship kicked back off. And so now as Keaton Swain gets passed by Cody Winicki, that was a great opportunistic pass as well. Is this anchors out for Peterson? Is it going to allow Barry to break away? They will head back to the end of the lap. They'll have 4 laps to go this time by, and Keaton Swain with a shove to the side of Winicki.
A little bit of a Gauss gun there as Swain got into Winicki, Winicki got into Peterson. All the energy just fired Peterson deeper into the corner, and now they're having an argument in the middle of the corner. Winicki losing the front end of that truck. Keaton Swain, you can't see the front end of that truck, and that's because it's totally gone. You're only seeing the front clip there. They were all tripping over each other through the final sector.
This shot off the back of Connor Barry for a second just gave us the look at the fact that the leading grouping has split up slightly. By no means has Barry broken away. Peterson is still right there within touching distance. Winicki is also now in that inverted top 3. So he would lead us to the start of Moto 2. Things finished as they are. No guarantees about that either. And this inverted top 3 that we're talking about today, not really a factor to think about, Joey, when we go over to from Bark River to Crandon, because when you're 10 wide, the only thing that really matters when you're inverting that top 3 is potentially you'll lose out on having the inside line, which might be the preferred place to be at Crandon.
Exactly. It's all about surviving, and generally, it's kind of like you're on the highway. You're doing a zipper merge. The people who are ahead kind of have right of way. The people who are behind kind of have to merge in line, but we all know it doesn't always happen that way, and we all know that there's always the possibility of chaos, and there's always the reality of that funnel coming together and somebody ending up in total destruction. But that's why we go to Crandon. That's why we like it. It is chaos to start, and then chaos all the way through. It's never calm.
And you head off into turn 5 on the start, so really you get an additional half a lap before you see the opening lap start. So always fun from that perspective as well. We'll have 2 more laps at the line. The race leaders not really doing too much in and amongst themselves just yet. Taylor Vandenbush has been caught by Sean Winkler with just a trim machine. Now sees the Racecraft number 720, the Academy entry, close up to the back of it. And as they head through the whoop section, long left-hander that follows. Well, welcome back to RaceSpotTV. Apologies for the technical issues once again, but with the first moto coming to a close here, and confirm the race results as the drivers get ready to go for the second moto of the night. So Connor Barry, Cam Peterson, Keaton Swain, and then Cody Winicki. Only a change for third, unfortunately being missed here on our coverage behind the rest of the running order. Josh Edmondson, Sean Winkler, Taylor Vandenbush, Greg Johnson, Keenan Kusin, James Burke, Drake Mittag, Mike Budson, Anthony James, and Cody Vanderveer. Our junior Kanky party alongside of Joey Tebben. And Joey, we get ready to go for Moto 2 and expecting to hopefully see the same closeness that we had between the front 4 at the very start of Moto 1.
Yeah, that was a very good race, and it all starts with them being in sort of reverse order yet again. We saw Connor Barry eventually be able to make that move to take the lead, but he's going to have to do the exact same thing, not just on Cameron Peterson, who he passed. He's going to have to pass Keaton Swain as well. He might even have to pass Cody Winicki, depending on how the race starts. It's going to be just as close, and they're probably going to trip over each other once or twice.
And hopefully once or twice that doesn't then see breakaways around the drivers everywhere else in the field, as a brief warm-up session currently on track for the drivers to just get their car dialed in that little bit more. Let's not forget, as we take a look at the Racecraft race analysis that the two 10-lap features do, of course, have open setups here in this Open Championship, and so as the track evolves, the blue groove sets on in. One final chance for Joey drivers to try and figure out if they want to make any final adjustments.
I mean, I hope, I wonder if Keenan Kusin, is he totally committed to using BarkRiver.sto for the entirety of the race? Or
Sounds like it.
Is he open to making slight adjustments?
No, it sounds like he's pretty committed.
All right.
No,
I suppose I support the effort.
You know, you've got to start somewhere when it comes to your setup operations, so at least I admire it from that perspective. But I guess it does go to show, right, that that same setup that the drivers are using in the Pro 2 Spec Championship can be used here in the Open Championship as well, if you're crazy.
How about that? I mean, it's a special members-only BarkRiver.sto.
There you go. Members-only version of the setup that Keenan Kusin is enjoying. I'm guessing that he'd probably like to have the setup from some of the other drivers if he could, but that might not be an option. About 30 seconds left in that brief session for the drivers before they get escorted onto the grid for the second of the motos. Just a reminder around this truck, it's around 4,000 pounds, so about 1,814 kilos. Does 0 to 60 in around 3.5 seconds, 700 horsepower, Joey all through the rear wheels.
That's why you see it's harder to spin one of these trucks than it is a Pro 4 truck that has a lot more power, but it's still easy. When you get a little bit out of shape, when you get a little bit too much rotation in the rear end, it's easy to spin one of these trucks out. It's a lot of horsepower that you're trying to keep pointed in a straight line. It's also very easy to land just wrong and have all of those thousands of pounds landing in the wrong direction. And it's very difficult to keep that pointed in a straight line. It's all momentum, Arjuna. I might have had to take 2 tries to pass college physics, but I still know the simple thing of big truck equals hard to stop.
And maybe that foreshadows what we've got in store. Let's go ahead and take you down to the starting grid for Moto 2, where Keaton Swain, of course, inverted top 3, gets ready to lead us to the green with Cam Peterson alongside in the front row. And then Connor Barry and Cody Winicky sharing row 2. Josh Edmondson fought back to 5th, hoping to have a slightly cleaner start on the inside of the starting formation this time by. He'll have Sean Winkler alongside on row number 3. Taylor Vandenbush is 7th with Greg Johnson alongside him, with then Keenan Kusin and James Burke the rest of the top 10. Drake Mittag and Mike Budson are 11th and 12th positions, with 13th going the way of Anthony James. Cody Vanderveer is in 14th. And once again, just in the nick of time, we finish running down through the starting grid. The pace truck pulls away for our formation lap, and so it's once again time to ask Joey Tebben for his mystic prediction ahead of the 10 laps ahead of us for Moto number 2.
My mystic prediction. I like that. Can we keep that?
Well, it depends
Joey's
on how
mystic prediction.
Depends on how well you do.
I've never been to Mystic, Connecticut. It's about 2.5 hours away.
Is there actually
Maybe
a place called Mystic, Connecticut?
Yeah, Mystic, Connecticut. The Mystic Seaport, Mystic Pizza. I've always wanted to go. Haven't been yet, but maybe if I go there, that'll finally make my predictions correct.
TIL.
Exactly.
Anyway,
So,
stop dodging the question. There you go.
Vandenbush is going to win.
Are you just scared because you put the curse down on Josh Edmondson last time by?
Precisely.
I don't blame you. Anyway, I'm going to say Connor Barry. I think he'll do it from 3rd. No, you know what? I'm going Keaton Swain. Factory Sim Coaches, number 21 from the front of the field.
Robbie Gordon.
You know, if I'm allowed to just throw names out there, can I go with
Sheldon Creed.
Barney?
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah, you see, Barney will always find a way to come out on top. Anyway, we got one more race event left to go after this when we head to the big house. Championship showdown left to come, but what will happen here in the rolling hills of Michigan? It's a good jump from your race leader. Keaton Swain will lead us through the opening corner, and Mr. Slicky instantly passes Cam Peterson for 2nd, so Connor Barry slides his way on forward. Cody Winicky is being challenged by Josh Edmondson as they fire their way through the long left-hander. Edmondson's not going to get the move done by any means. Winkler's being fought by Vandenbush. A little bit of contact behind for Greg Johnson, who gets spun around into the grass.
Oh dear, the Team Watson number 150. Very, very far out, almost into the river of Bark River. That's how far away he was. But now, up front, things do start to get serious. And Connor Barry has the same job he had in race 1, which is pass one single car to take the lead. Keaton Swain has the very difficult job of doing what Cam Peterson couldn't do, holding back Connor Barry. Unfortunately, if he can't keep him behind right now, that task may be over already. There goes Connor Barry into the lead. That may be race over already, unless there's a bobble from Connor.
So James Burke is down on pit lane. Greg Johnson turned around through turn 2, but 2 positions gained for Connor Barry at the end of the opening lap. He leads once again here. Big send from Cam Peterson, all sorts of out of shape, but maybe a bit offensive as well to try and put the pressure onto Swain in second spot. But as they rise back up through turn 1, car leaps up into the air as they transition off to turn 2. Connor Barry already 4/10 clear. What can he do to try and break away? Remember, he made a great opportunistic pass on Cam Peterson to take the lead in Moto 1.
That he did. He made a great pass to begin race number 2 to get up into second in the first place. And that's exactly what Crystal King talked about in her interview just a couple of minutes ago. It's kind of better to start in third than it is to start in second. You get an inside line, you get a better run up over the hill and into turn 2. So Connor was in a comfortable position, got to make a fairly easy move on a driver who he was faster than in race 1, and now these two try and run away. As Winicki and Peterson, they're not having the easy time. They're fighting just as they were in race 1, and Josh Edmondson has not had the same terrible start he had previously, so he's on the scene too as they're tripping over each other, and he makes it through the middle.
Oh, what a pass. He takes the 2 for 1. And here comes Winkler on the case. Vandenbush is there as well. They'll be 3 wide off the corner. Peterson gets shoved wide. He avoids doing a Kenny Hoffman from slightly earlier in the night. Loses some speed and some track position, yes, at the expense of safety. And so now 2.3 seconds the margin between the top 2 and those behind through all of that craziness. And what a pass from Josh Edmondson to take advantage.
Poor old Kenny Hoffman. He's not even racing in the same series as these guys, and we've turned him into a noun. Poor guy. That's what happens sometimes, though. And this is that clean midfield racing that we love to see. 3 wide through the middle for Josh Edmondson. He gets rewarded for that. And now all of these guys suddenly in the fight for a top 5. Sean Winkler, Cody Winicki, a little bit of corner cutting there. Might have to give up some time, and good old Sean Winkler, if somebody's watching, he might not be for sale anymore. Somebody might finally buy him.
Uses that inside berm to hook that truck around.
What's the price?
Gets that truck hooked up nice and tightly to the inside as they head to the final sector now. Just these winding hairpins before they launch themselves through the berm on the outside to bring themselves back to the line. Speaking of, race leader Connor Barry being hunted down by Keaton Swain. We jump on board with that 21 and listen in momentarily. Throttle usage at play from the driver on the chase, Joey, trying to put the pressure onto the race leader.
And like I said, it's all about timing with these massive jumps. Throwing yourself in the air, you can't just be full throttle all the time. You can't just, as I said in the previous race, you can't just brute force your way around this place. You need to know the rhythm. You need to know when is your time to be off throttle, when is your time to be on throttle, when is your time to be 50% throttle or 75% throttle. It is a delicate dance, which is very, very, it's not what you would think with a dirt racing off-road pro truck series. You have to be that delicate with your feet, but it absolutely is. It's like a ballet.
On board with Cam Peterson, who rides in VR and in his motion rig as well. That was definitely not
more like no Cam Peterson.
That was a frozen Josh Edmondson is what that was, unfortunately, as we just ride on board with the in-sim perspective of the Nitro Circus sim racing driver. You can see the margin up to Sean Winkler growing slightly as well, as Vandenbush losing a bit of time, and so eventually going to see some desperation and a half-hearted lunge there from Peterson, not really sticking or working by any measure. Still with 6 laps left to go, they cross the line. Josh Edmondson 2.7 seconds behind Keaton Swain. I think a little bit more concerned about behind, and Cody Winicki, who's been very, very fast today.
So that frozen video wasn't no Cam Peterson, it was Josh Edmondson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Anyway, moving on, as Sean Winkler...
We could just do the last 5 laps like that. People might like it.
Yeah, anyway, Sean Winkler and Cody Winicky continue to fight 4th and 5th positions behind Josh Edmondson. I think Keaton Swain's lost the running order to the race leader. Connor Barry is now 1.2 seconds clear and starting to break away.
Keaton's doing everything he can to just keep in touch, but it's so difficult to do. And it's happened in 3 of the 4 races tonight where the fastest guy in the field finds himself out front, finds himself in a rhythm, and yourself in second, you have to figure out, how on earth do I win a race against an unstoppable force? The only thing you can do is deliver as much as you possibly can. Keep yourself as close as you possibly can. Minimize mistakes. So on the off chance that something does happen, that a truck spins out in front of the leader, that the leader makes a mistake, that you're there to capitalize on those mistakes. If you get complacent and just drive around and think, oh God, I can't win this race, I'm not going to be able to do anything, then there is a mistake. You might be a little bit too far back to capitalize on it.
Well, I'm just thinking back to, you know, Cody Retzlaff's moment with traffic. Not often that you see something like that, especially when we only have 13 trucks still left out there. So for Keaton Swain, at some point, he's probably going to be thinking, let me get close enough to try and effect a bump and run, some sort of chrome horn.
There's always a J.R. Hildebrand moment waiting to happen.
Never say never.
I guess if we want to be more modern, if we want to do the first Indy Next reference on a Racecraft off-road race, there's always a Yuvan Sundaramurthy Lindsey Brewer moment.
You never want to count your chickens, but you can, especially here at Bark River, knowing how easy it is through that final section to make a mistake and find yourself on the K-rail. Definitely something to keep in mind. Cody Winicky, as mentioned, very, very strong today. His best run of the season. And this will stand him in very, very good stead in his fight with Sean Winkler for 5th in that championship. So, Drake Mittag as well. No Zachary Drapkin today, unfortunately. And so that slightly changes that running order heading into the final round of the season at Crandon. We'll go racing again for our 2 motos in a week's time. We've got 3 laps to go at the line. And as these drivers just put the pressure onto one another, let's see if we can find some wheel-to-wheel racing between Greg Johnson and Mike Budson.
It's beautiful. Even for the last spot in the field, they're still going at it. Every point matters, every position matters, and at the end of the day, oh dear. Well, that was a good time to ride on board. Unfortunately, Greg Johnson enters the tumbling realm. Oh dear, I was about to say, Arjuna, it's always fun to battle no matter where you are, because there's always going to be some kind of fun in a Pro 2 truck. That was fun for us, probably not so fun for Greg Johnson.
No, especially if he's in a virtual reality with a motion rig like Cam Peterson. That seems like a rather sickening ride. Definitely not one that I would willingly sign up for. 3 to go at the line as the laps tick away, and now 1.5 seconds, your race leading margin. So Connor Barry has, well, established himself on the points here and gets set to do what Cody Retzlaff did and grab double victories. Set himself up as the presumptive championship favorite going into the season showdown. Sean Winkler, after the chaos of the opening race of the night, put that behind him, as has Josh Edmondson quite well in this second race. Put themselves in good positions, and that is the chaos of short course racing, Joey, and why, I think, like you were saying and alluding to when it came to never giving up in a race like this, you also never really want to put yourself down if things go wrong in the first race of the night.
Exactly. That's part of the format. There is always the possibility of getting yourself back out there. And right now, this is not Bark River Race 2. This is Bark River Race 4. So you've got a wealth of experience this season, and you can use all of that in these final couple of laps. Cody and Josh are both using all that. Sean riding in line, hoping that these two come together. Cody gets to the inside. They're making a little bit of contact now, Arjuna. It's late in the race. You can start getting away with a little bit more in terms of throwing the bumpers.
Oh!
Cody can't get away with that. Oh, dear.
Well,
Backing up.
He does it. He gets out of dodge, but he puts himself in danger. Contact with Cam Peterson, who I think may have just avoided the worst of all of that. Yes, he will still have to deal with Vanderveer and Mittag behind, but poor Cody Winicky, it was going so well.
I think if he was a little bit faster on the reaction backing out of there, he might have actually got out and avoided getting hit by traffic, but he hesitated a little bit, and that, unfortunately, ended up being the death of him. This is exactly what I was talking about, though. Down in the bottom, sending it in there. You want to ride the berm. You feel like you can get close to the wall, but you just can't get close to the wall between turns 10 and 11. There's just a very weird geometric shape there. And there's Cam Peterson on the scene. Barely even saw him, and now that steering wheel's not going to be pointed straight. So get used to being about 180 degrees to the right for the rest of the night.
Not sure how straight it was anyway at that point, to be fair, but maybe helps correct it more to the center anyway.
Maybe.
Gonna see the white flag in hand this time by for the Air Slayer tribute for Connor Barry as he heads his way back to the line. A little bit of jump. And with 1 lap to go, 1.5 miles, ready to grab victory in the second moto of the night. Mr. Slicky has built up that margin exactly as he would have wanted. Let's see if there's still some fights to watch as Keenan Kusin on the case of Anthony James.
And Keenan has actually figured out how to run the impossible line. He had 2 tires up in the black stuff, up on the side of the wall. He was able to make it happen, able to build up the momentum, able to get to the inside of Anthony James. Not quite able to make the move just yet. Old BarkRiver.sto not quite giving him the straight line speed, but finally on landing, he is able to make the move. And that's Keenan up into P9. But unfortunately, Cody's still here with minimal damage to this truck. With race-winning speed at one point, these 2 guys are going to be pretty scared that they got him behind him now.
I tell you what, some of these drivers are probably thinking, 14 trucks, we could have had a decent finish. Not sure all of them could have predicted everything that would have happened today, but Connor Barry would have felt pretty confident that he'd be up front and challenging. It's 2 wins tonight here in the rolling hills of Michigan for Connor Barry. Puts himself 1 step closer to the Racecraft Off-Road powered by Next Level Racing Open Championship, with just 2 more races to go at Crandon left for him to hold on. Keaton Swain grabs second. Josh Edmondson will hold on to the final spot on the podium as the chaotic race not done by any means. Couple more trucks still battling to the line.
James trying to repay the favor on Keenan through the final couple of corners. It's almost going to be 3 wide. Cody Winicki's on the scene as well, but Keenan is just barely going to hang on. He had a nose on that truck, and James didn't. I know the transponder's in the middle of the truck, but that was a little bit like a Lightning McQueen finish, where the longer truck ended up holding out.
And I guess as well, not the first time we've seen that margin in the evening be less than 1/10 of a second. You talked about the impossible line from Keenan Kusin, drivers having to understand over the course of the evening how to shift and adjust their lines as the track continued to evolve. A look at the race results. Race Control probably has a little bit of investigation to do, but not much in regard to Connor Barry, Keaton Swain or Josh Edmondson up front as Nitro Circus Sim Racing grab a double podium and double win here tonight. Sean Winkler 4th with Taylor Vandenbush 5th. We're quite happy with how the second race went for the pair of them, with Cam Peterson, Drake Mittag, and then Cody Vanderveer, Keenan Kusin, and Anthony James, the rest of the top 10. 11th for Cody Winicki after dropping down through a self-inflicted mistake. Mike Buds in 12th. Greg Johnson is 1 lap down, with James Burke unfortunately seeing some issues in the opening couple of laps. So as we wait for the drivers to come and stand by with us here in the broadcast booth, as ever, looking forward to the post-race reaction from our drivers. Let's see if we can catch up first with Keaton Swain in that Sim Coaches Factory Sim Sport number 21. Keaton, talk us through the evening. A couple of second place finishes, second place finish and a third place finish in the first race of the night. How did you feel about Bark River and how it went for you?
Yeah, this track's tough in a Pro 2, especially to put a whole race together without making any mistakes. But overall, to be on the podium twice there, we'll definitely take it. Definitely didn't have anything for Connor. He was quick all night, but still to come home with some decent points, try to somehow get second in the championship. That's the goal from here on out. I think Connor's got a pretty big lead, so we'll take the 2 podiums and then go on to Crandon here.
And we head off to Crandon in a week's time. I do have to ask, land rush start, 10 wide. Is there any place that you'd prefer to be in a Pro 2 heading down to turn 5 for the first time at racing speed?
Either first or 10th. Anywhere in between there is not very good. I found that out the first race. I think I was 4th or 3rd and got put to last before even turn 1. So it's real tricky in the Pro 2 to get a good start there. So definitely want to be first has a good launching spot, and then 10th you can get to the dirt quicker and get a little bit more grip.
You heard it from Keaton himself. Thanks for joining us, Keaton. We'll see you next week for the final showdown from Crandon.
Yeah, thanks.
Always great to catch up with Keaton Swain. Let's see if we can catch up with Mr. Slicky, Connor Barry, who put an amazing move on Cam Peterson in the first moto to grab the win, and then charged his way forward on the start to take confidence and a lead in Moto 2 that he never looks back from. So 2 victories tonight, and Connor, I think you've got to be full of confidence with the championship lead in your hands and heading into the season finale at Crandon.
Oh yeah, that was definitely a pretty good one. We qualified. We qualified in first, and we got inverted to third, and then I managed to get up to first in both. So it definitely was good, and we extended the points lead. So we're definitely in a pretty good spot heading into Crandon.
And speaking of Crandon, I just asked Keaton Swain this very same question. I'll ask it to you as well. 10 wide, land rush start. Is there any place you'd prefer to be heading down into turn 5 for the very first time at racing speed?
I would say probably in first or 10th. I think in these it's also about being smart on the throttle, because if you aren't, your tires will just spin. So I would say either first or 10th, but it is going to come down to whoever has the best throttle control.
Love it. Keaton, by the way, had basically the same exact answer, so good to hear that you're on the same page. Congratulations, Connor, on the double victories. We'll see you next week to see how the championship showdown goes.
Thank you.
Connor Barry jumps in that Nitro Circus sim racing machine. We'll have a chat as well with Josh Edmondson, who's standing by with Joey Tebben.
Indeed he is, finishing things off for the night. Josh Edmondson. Race 1 didn't quite go your way, but good recovery to third in race number 2. How did this race go so much better than some of the chaos in race 1?
Yeah, just made a mistake, race 1. Yeah, I screwed up qualifying, kind of butchered my laps, so I started a little further back than I wanted to. And then, yeah, I just didn't get a good jump. I think Winicky got by me on the start, and then I kind of like half spun, and people behind me had nowhere to go and got ran over. But yeah, I was able to get back up to 5th, I think, first moto, which was a good recovery for that. And then, yeah, there was some chaos going on. Cam and Cody were battling. I was able to sneak through for 3rd, so that was good. But yeah, Connor and Keaton had already pulled away too much. There was no reeling them in at that point.
So that's 4 races now at Bark River this season. Are you ready to be done with this track, at least for now? And are you excited to go to Crandon next week?
Oh, yeah. I mean, these 2 are my favorite. These last 2 are definitely my favorite. And Bark River may be my favorite. I just was a little off today, unfortunately. This is definitely one of the tracks where I expect to win. So, yeah, not exactly stoked on the result, but, you know, fighting back and recovering from a bad race like this is good. Can't really complain.
Indeed it is. Congrats on 3rd, and we'll see you in just 1 week at Crandon for the Land Rush.
Yep, thanks guys, and appreciate you guys putting on the broadcast, and shout out all the sponsors: Nitro Circus, Sim Racing, Next Level Racing, Apex Gaming PCs, and Pimax VR.
Josh Edmondson, 3rd place in race 2, and most importantly, Arjuna, a company man, getting those sponsors in there.
He remembered to shout out everybody, and well, let's remember to shout out that same time, same place, next Wednesday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. We're ready for our championship showdown with Josh Lee. Will rejoin myself, Arjuna Kanki Party. Not to say that we haven't enjoyed having Joey Tebben in the booth, but he's decided that he will make sure that he's here for every round of the season that isn't at Bark River. We'll have to dig into that one in a bit more detail with him when he rejoins us. But Joey, it has been an interesting season so far, and now 2 very decisive championship leaders heading into their season finale with one hand on their championships.
But even though there might not be a championship battle, maybe that'll make things even more exciting. It'll be a possibility of everybody having nothing to lose, can fight for everything, can throw everything at it, can be a little bit crazy, and I think that bodes pretty well for a good race at Crandon. It's also the 2nd race at Crandon of the season, but it's not going to be the same as the 2nd race at Bark River where you could use that experience. No matter how much experience you have at Crandon, all 10 cars on that Land Rush are still getting crammed in to turn 1.
And at the end of the day, we heard it from both Keaton Swain and Connor Barry. They want to be 1st or 10th. Anywhere in the middle, it's a bit of a lottery. We can't wait for that season finale. Until then, so much more left to come on RaceSpotTV, so make sure you stay subscribed to us and follow along on social media for all the action left to come. For Joey Tebbin alongside myself, Arjuna Kanki Party, thanks for your company. We'll see you next week for our championship showdown from the big house. But for Cody Retzlaff, for Connor Barry, they leave with smiles on their faces and one hand on their championships. Lots still left to go, though. 2 motos left in our respective championship hunts.